The calm before the storm. The emerging empire. In the quiet lands of Eldoria, the sun rose slowly over fields of golden wheat. The gentle light touched every corner of the kingdom, making the land seem warm and welcoming. Yet under this calm sky, something was stirring. A new empire was slowly emerging from the shadows of an old, forgotten time. In the small village of Corin, life moved with simple rhythms. Farmers tilled their fields, merchants sold their wares in the market, and children played near the winding river. Every day, the people of Corin woke up to a familiar routine that had been passed down through generations. They believed that peace and prosperity would always rule their lives. However, in the heart of the ancient forest, far from the busy village, a group of leaders gathered. They were wise men and strong warriors who had spent many years planning the rise of a new empire. They spoke in soft tones, careful not to disturb the balance of the land. They knew that change was coming, and they wanted to guide it for the good of all. Across the kingdom, whispers of a great leader began to spread. This leader was said to be both kind and fearless, someone who could bring order to a chaotic world. People spoke of him in hushed voices during late-night gatherings by the fire. The stories told of a man who would unite the scattered lands, bringing with him a new hope for a better tomorrow. In the palace of the old ruler, King Darian, there was an uneasy feeling. The king had long ruled with strength and wisdom, but he sensed that his time was drawing to an end. The palace walls, once filled with laughter and music, now echoed with quiet thoughts of the future. King Darian often walked alone in the garden, gazing at the sky as if searching for answers. Deep in his heart, he wondered if the emerging empire would bring change for the better or signal the end of his reign. Meanwhile, in the training grounds of the kingdom's army, soldiers practiced their drills with precision. Their eyes shone with determination, yet a hint of worry lay beneath their steady gazes. The leaders of the emerging empire had reached out to many in the army, promising a future filled with honor and respect. This promise stirred hope among some soldiers who dreamed of a life where strength and loyalty were rewarded. However, not all were convinced. Many soldiers clung to the old ways, fearing that change might bring chaos and loss. In a quiet clearing near the river, a young girl named Elin lived with her family. Elin was known for her bright eyes and curious mind. Every morning, she would sit by the water and watch the world wake up, noticing even the smallest changes. One day, as she looked into the rippling water, she saw a strange reflection, a flicker of movement that did not belong to the gentle dance of the trees or the graceful flight of the birds. Though she did not understand it, the sight filled her with both wonder and fear. She felt that something big was about to happen. News of the emerging empire reached even the smallest corners of the land. In the marketplace of Corin, people discussed the future with a mix of excitement and doubt. Old men remembered times when great empires had risen and fallen, leaving behind ruins and broken dreams. Yet the promise of a new beginning was strong. Stories were shared of a leader who would bring unity and strength, a leader who could stand up against any enemy and protect the innocent. The talk of the market grew louder as more people began to believe that this change was not just a rumor, but a promise of a brighter future. Under the clear blue sky, the kingdom appeared peaceful. Birds sang their melodies and the gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. Yet beneath this calm surface, plans were being set in motion. The emerging empire was not born in a day. It was built on years of careful thought, hard work, and the silent dreams of many. Each person in the land, from the lowliest peasant to the highest noble, could feel that the air was thick with anticipation. Even the quiet rivers seemed to murmur secrets of a coming storm. In the weeks that followed, the calm continued, and the people of Eldoria went about their lives. They worked in their fields, tended to their animals, and sang songs of old legends. But each night, as the stars filled the sky, there was a collective feeling that something new was coming. The emerging empire promised change, and that change would soon turn the quiet, familiar world into a stage for greatness and conflict. For now, though, the land rested in a peaceful slumber. The calm before the storm was a moment of quiet strength, a time when every soul in Eldoria could look forward to a future filled with both hope and uncertainty. The stage was set, and the emerging empire was ready to write the first lines of its new chapter. Approximately 800 words. Rumors of a legend. In the heart of the kingdom, as the early morning light spread across quiet streets and simple homes, whispers began to grow louder. In the small market square of Corin, traders and townsfolk exchanged tales of a mysterious figure, a legendary leader who would change the fate of the land. The legend spoke of a brave soul, a man who would rise from obscurity to lead the people against the dark forces gathering at the edges of the realm. Every whispered word carried hope. Old storytellers recalled days of past heroes, while the youth listened intently, imagining a hero who could unite the scattered lands. Among these eager listeners was a young soldier named Joran. Joran, with his clear eyes and earnest heart, had grown up hearing these stories. He believed that the legend was more than just a tale. Deep down, he felt that the emerging leader would soon step forward, carrying the promise of a new era. In a modest cottage on the outskirts of Corin, an elderly man named Brannick sat by the fire, recounting memories of a time when legends walked the earth. His voice, soft yet filled with conviction, told of a man who once brought hope during the darkest hours. He was a leader like no other, Brannick said, a man with courage and kindness who could turn the tide of fate. His words, simple and heartfelt, stirred the souls of those gathered around him. As the day went on, the stories began to spread beyond the village. In a small town near the border of Eldoria, a local priest named Murrah received a vision during her morning prayers. In her dream, a radiant light shone over the battlefield, and a figure clad in human armor emerged. Mara saw this as a sign that the legendary leader was near. With a calm yet determined expression, she shared her vision with the community. Her clear message was that hope was coming, and the people needed to prepare their hearts for change. News of the legend even reached the castle of King Darien. The wise old king, troubled by the growing rumor of an unknown hero, called his most trusted advisors to discuss the matter. The advisors, seasoned by years of service, were uncertain. Some thought that this legend might be a spark of inspiration that could unite the people, while others feared that it could lead to unrest. King Darien, with his gentle demeanor and thoughtful mind, listened carefully to every word. He knew that the power of a good story could shape the future, and in the hearts of his people, hope was a valuable treasure. Meanwhile, in a hidden camp deep within the ancient forest, a group of warriors gathered around a small, crackling fire. They were not loyal to the old kingdom, but they believed in the rise of something new. Among them was a young warrior named Lion, whose eyes shone with determination. Lion had heard the tales of the legendary leader from his mother, who had once served in the royal guard. He had grown up with a strong sense of duty and a desire for a just leader to guide his people. To him, the stories were not mere words. They were a call to action. The warriors spoke of the leader as if he were already among them, a guiding light in the darkness. Soon, one of them said in a low, steady voice, "He will come, and our enemy will tremble at the sight of his resolve." Their voices, filled with a mix of hope and anticipation, carried through the quiet night, echoing among the trees and stirring the spirits of all who listened. Back in the market square of Corin, the mood was a mix of excitement and cautious wonder. Every face, young or old, seemed to share the same thought, that the legend was real, and that soon this great leader would make his appearance known. Even as the day faded into evening, and the market emptied into silent streets, the hope of a new dawn lingered in every whispered conversation. As the rumors continued to spread, a letter arrived at the doorstep of a respected captain of the local guard named Roland. The letter was simple, written in clear, neat words. It spoke of strange happenings on the battlefield, of a power stirring in the distance, and of a leader who would soon rally the people to defend their homes. Though the source of the letter was unknown, its message resonated with Roland. stirring memories of the old legends he had heard as a child. The kingdom was abuzz with these tales. Every corner, from the smallest village to the largest town, felt the magic of the legend. It was as if a spark had been lit, and slowly it was growing into a flame that could not be ignored. The simple words of the tales, told by villagers, warriors, and even kings, carried a deep promise that the legend was coming, and with him, a chance for a brighter future. In every home, on every street, the rumor of the legendary leader filled the air. With each passing day, the hope grew stronger, as if the very land was ready to be reborn under the banner of a new and brave leader. And though no one yet knew the face of this hero, everyone believed that he would soon emerge, leading the people to a destiny written in the stars. Signs of an imminent clash. In the early hours of a cool, misty morning, the kingdom of Eldoria began to show clear signs that a great conflict was near. The land, once calm and full of hope, now whispered of change and uncertainty. Even the soft rustling of the leaves in the ancient forests seemed to carry a warning. Simple yet undeniable, these signs spoke of an imminent clash between old orders and new powers. At the break of dawn in the village of Corin, farmers noticed something unusual. While tending their fields, they felt a strange tremor beneath their feet, barely strong enough to disturb the soil, but enough to cause a moment of unease. Livestock, usually calm at sunrise, became restless, their eyes wide with anxiety as they sensed an unseen force at work. In the market square, traders exchanged worried glances and murmured about the odd vibrations that had shaken the ground overnight. Not far from Corin, along a quiet country road, a young messenger named Terran hurried on horseback. His heart pounded as he rode, for he had been sent by the local guard to deliver urgent news. As Terran passed small hamlets, he saw dark clouds gathering on the horizon, a rare sight in the clear blue skies of Eldoria. The clouds moved slowly, as if they were carrying secrets from distant lands. Terran wondered if these signs were connected to the rumors of a rising empire and the legendary leader that many had begun to believe in. At the royal palace, King Darian stood on a high balcony overlooking the vast kingdom. Though he had grown accustomed to the routine of his daily duties, today he felt a growing tension in the air. The king's eyes followed the distant horizon, where the sky turned a deep, foreboding gray. His trusted advisors whispered that nature itself was warning them of coming strife. Even the palace gardens, usually bursting with bright blossoms and gentle fragrances, seemed to lose their color, as if mourning the loss of peace. In the training grounds of the kingdom's army, soldiers were on high alert. Under the watchful eye of their commanders, they practiced drills with an extra measure of urgency. Every soldier felt the weight of what was to come. The steady beat of their marching footsteps and the clink of their armor blended with the natural sounds of a land in suspense. Among them was Roland, the captain who had received a mysterious letter about strange happenings on the battlefield. With each step he took, Roland could not shake the feeling that he was marching toward an inevitable battle. Deep in the ancient forest, away from the eyes of the common people, a small band of warriors gathered around a hidden fire. They had long prepared for this moment, each scar on their bodies a testament to battles fought and lessons learned. Lion, the young warrior who had grown up hearing legends of brave leaders, sat quietly by the fire. He listened intently to the murmurs of his comrades. "The ground shakes for a reason," one of them said, his voice low and serious. "It is as if the very earth is crying out for change." Lion's heart filled with both fear and hope, knowing that soon the silence would break into the sound of battle. On the outskirts of the kingdom, nature itself seemed to signal the coming clash. Birds that once chirped merrily at dawn now flew in uneasy patterns, and even the river, which flowed steadily through the land, carried ripples that disturbed its calm surface. The signs were not loud or dramatic. They were subtle hints that the peace was ending. The darkening sky, the quivering ground, and the restless creatures all painted a picture of a world on the brink of change. Back in Corin, as the day wore on, villagers gathered in small groups to discuss what they had seen and felt. They remembered the old tales of great battles and heroic leaders, stories told by their elders during long, quiet evenings. These conversations grew more intense as more people recalled the strange events: a sudden gust of wind in a still day, the low hum that filled the air before heavy rain, and the distant, almost inaudible sound of drums echoing in the hills. The villagers wondered if these were the signs of an impending war. In a modest cottage at the edge of the village, an elderly woman named Mira sat by her window, watching the sky darken slowly. She had lived through many seasons and had seen peace give way to conflict more than once. Her eyes, filled with wisdom and a touch of sorrow, followed the subtle changes in nature. Mira whispered a quiet prayer for safety, feeling that the land was about to test its people once again. As dusk approached, the entire kingdom seemed to hold its breath. The first stars appeared in the sky, their light pale against the deepening gloom. Every soul, from the lowliest peasant to the highest noble, sensed that the calm days were over. In every corner of Eldoria, the signs of an imminent clash were clear to those who cared to see them. The land was preparing itself for the coming storm, and the people, whether they understood it fully or not, braced for the conflict that would soon reshape their world. In this charged atmosphere, the stage was now set for the inevitable confrontation. The natural signs, combined with the growing whispers of war, made it clear a clash was coming. And soon, the emerging empire, with its legendary leader, would step into the light of destiny, changing the fate of Eldoria forever. The human resolve. In the quiet hours before dawn, the human camp stirred with a sense of purpose. In a small clearing near the forest's edge, soldiers and workers moved with determination. They were preparing for the coming conflict, each person filled with a deep resolve to protect their home and way of life. Under the light of the fading moon, plans were made and orders whispered, all leading to the promise of a better future. At the heart of the camp stood a simple wooden pavilion where leaders gathered to discuss their next move. Among them was Captain Roland, a man known for his calm yet firm manner. He looked at the maps spread out before him and listened intently as his trusted officers shared the latest news. Rumors of the emerging empire and its legendary warship had reached even these remote parts, and Roland believed that hope was on the horizon. With each word spoken, his voice grew stronger, carrying the weight of responsibility and the courage of his people. Not far from the pavilion, the soldiers prepared their gear. They polished their simple shields, checked their worn-out swords, and tied the straps on their armor. Their faces, though marked with fatigue, shone with determination. They knew that soon they would stand together against an unknown force, and each felt that this struggle was more than a battle. It was a step toward a brighter future. As they worked, the sound of hammers on metal and the murmurs of resolve filled the crisp morning air. In a quiet corner of the camp, a group of young recruits huddled around their sergeant. With careful words and simple explanations, he taught them the value of discipline and loyalty. "We stand for our land," he said, his voice steady and clear. "Every one of us is a part of this great story. Today, you learn the way of the warrior, so that tomorrow you may protect those you love." The recruits listened with wide eyes, understanding that they were not just learning to fight, but to stand as guardians of hope. Meanwhile, in a humble tent near the edge of the camp, an old veteran named Brannick sat quietly. His face showed the scars of many battles, but his eyes still sparkled with wisdom and pride. Brannick had seen the rise and fall of many empires, and he now believed that this new chapter was the turning point for humanity. He took a deep breath and began to write in his journal, recording the thoughts of a man who knew that courage and resolve were the keys to a lasting peace. His simple words would later serve as a reminder that hope was always born in the hearts of those who dare to stand firm. As the sun slowly began to rise, its first light revealed a scene of quiet preparation. In the distance, the legendary human warship, a symbol of strength and unity, sat anchored in a hidden bay. Its sleek design and powerful presence were a promise of change. Though the ship remained silent for now, It was clear to everyone that it held the power to change the course of the coming conflict. The soldiers and leaders alike looked toward the warship with a mixture of awe and anticipation, understanding that its arrival would mark a new era in their struggle. In the makeshift mess hall, where simple meals were shared, conversations turned to personal hopes and dreams. One soldier, a young man named Terran, spoke of his family and the future he longed to build. "I fight not just for today," he said softly, "but for a time when my children can live in peace." His words resonated with many, and for a moment, the room was filled with a quiet determination that went beyond the call of duty. It was the feeling of a people united by a common goal, a belief that together they could overcome any challenge. Outside, as the day grew warmer, the camp continued its work. The leaders organized drills and rehearsals, teaching the soldiers to work as one. The simple commands were easy to follow, and each drill was a reminder that every step taken was one step closer to victory. In the open fields behind the camp, small groups practiced coordinated moves, their movements precise and deliberate. It was in these moments that the human resolve shone the brightest, each soldier proving that their spirit was unbreakable. As the day wore on, the camp transformed into a living symbol of hope and determination. Every individual, from the highest-ranking officer to the newest recruit, played their part in building a defense that was as strong as it was simple. They knew that the coming clash would test them, but they also believed that their resolve was the key to a future filled with peace and prosperity. In that clear, bright light of morning, the human spirit was alive and well. The resolve of the people was not built on grand speeches or complex plans, but on simple truths and honest hard work. Each person understood that they were the guardians of their home, and in their unity there was a strength that no enemy could break. With hearts filled with quiet determination, the camp waited for the next signal, a call to stand together as one, ready to face the storm that was sure to come. And as the day unfolded, every soul in the camp took comfort in the knowledge that their resolve was a light that would guide them through even the darkest of times. The arrival of the warship. As the first light of dawn broke over Eldoria, a hush fell over the human camp. All eyes turned toward the distant horizon, where a dark shape began to appear in the early morning mist. Slowly and majestically, the legendary human warship came into view, its silhouette growing clearer against the brightening sky. The warship was unlike anything the people had ever seen. Its long, sleek body shone with a dull metallic glimmer that caught the rising sun's rays. The vessel moved with a quiet power, as if it were guided by an unseen force. For many, it was a symbol of hope, a promise that the strength and spirit of humanity could stand against any enemy. Captain Roland, standing near the front of the camp, felt a deep sense of pride and relief. His eyes followed the ship's graceful path as it glided over the calm waters of the hidden bay. In that moment, the worries and fears of countless soldiers and civilians melted away, replaced by an unshakable belief in the future. The warship was not just a machine of war. It was a beacon of unity and courage that signaled the beginning of a new era. The crew of the warship worked silently but efficiently, preparing to join their comrades on the battlefield. Men and women, many of whom had trained for this day, moved with precision and determination. Their faces, lit by the glow of the approaching ship, showed both resolve and excitement. They knew that the ship's arrival was the turning point in the struggle that had long weighed on the hearts of all in Eldoria. As the ship neared the shore, the ground itself seemed to react. Gentle tremors ran through the earth, and even the nearby trees appeared to bow in respect. The sound of the ship's engines, soft but steady, blended with the natural chorus of the morning. It was as if nature itself was welcoming this mighty force, a force that would soon change the tide of battle. In the camp, people gathered in small clusters, their voices low with wonder. Soldiers adjusted their armor one last time, and the commanders exchanged nods of quiet confidence. They all understood that the warship was more than a new weapon. It was the physical embodiment of the human will to survive and to protect what was dear. Its arrival was a promise that every sacrifice made and every hardship endured was leading to this moment of rebirth. As the warship anchored just off the shore, a long ramp extended toward the waiting camp. One by one, brave crew members began to disembark, stepping onto solid ground with a purposeful stride. Their boots made soft thuds on the earth, marking the beginning of a powerful alliance between the ship and the people. Each step they took resonated like a drumbeat of hope, a promise that the coming battle would be fought with honor and strength. Overhead, the sky brightened further, as if applauding the arrival of this mighty vessel. A gentle breeze carried whispers of encouragement, and even the birds seemed to sing in a higher key. For a brief, shining moment, the whole kingdom felt united. The fear of an unknown enemy was replaced by the belief that together, the people of Eldoria could overcome any challenge. The arrival of the warship was a turning point. It filled the hearts of the people with a renewed sense of purpose. The ship was not a mere craft of war. It was a rallying symbol, a signal that the forces of humanity had gathered and would soon rise to meet the threat. In the quiet strength of that morning, every soul in the camp knew that the storm was now at their doorstep, and they were ready to face it, united by the power of their resolve and the courage embodied in the warship's grand entrance. Clash on the ground. The day of battle had finally arrived. In the open fields where the human camp had set up their defenses, the soldiers prepared for a fight that would decide the future of Eldoria. The once quiet field was now filled with the sounds of clashing metal, shouted orders, and the steady beat of drums that kept time with the soldiers' hearts. At the forefront of the human army, Captain Roland led his men with a determined gaze. Every soldier wore the resolve of those who had trained for this very moment. They moved in unison, their simple commands clear and precise. As they advanced, the earth trembled beneath their feet, a reminder of the warship's earlier arrival and the promise of strength it had carried. The soldiers felt the power of their unity as they marched forward, each step echoing the beat of hope and courage. On the other side of the field, the enemy forces gathered in tight formation. Their armor, dark and heavy, shone under a grim sky, and their eyes burned with the desire to stop the human force. They had heard the stories of the legendary warship and the brave leader who had come to guide his people. The enemy, too, was ready for battle, their hearts hardened by years of strife and ambition. The clash that was about to begin was not just a fight for land, but for the very spirit of the people. The battle began with a sudden surge of movement. The human soldiers met the enemy with fierce determination. Swords clashed, shields were struck, and arrows flew in the early light of day. The sounds of battle filled the air, a wild symphony of courage and conflict. Captain Roland moved among his men, urging them to hold their ground and fight with all their strength. His voice, steady and clear, reached every corner of the battlefield, reminding them that they fought for a future filled with hope. In the heat of the fight, the simplicity of the human spirit shone brightly. Each soldier fought not just for victory, but for their families, their homes, and the promise of a better life. Their actions were guided by honor and a belief in the strength of humanity. Even when the battle turned fierce and the enemy pressed hard, the human warriors stood firm. Their resolve was like a wall, unyielding and strong. Amid the chaos, small acts of bravery lit the battlefield. A young recruit, remembering the words of his sergeant, charged forward to rescue a fallen comrade. With simple words of encouragement and a steady hand, he pulled his friend from danger and led him to safety. Nearby, a seasoned warrior named Lion fought with a quiet fury. Each swing of his sword was a promise to protect those around him, and each block with his shield was a stand against the forces that threatened to tear their world apart. The battle took unexpected turns. At one moment, the enemy's numbers seemed overwhelming, and a wave of fear spread among some ranks. But then, from the distance, the legendary human warship came into view once again, hovering near the battlefield like a guardian of hope. Its presence was a powerful reminder that they were not alone, that the strength of their people was backed by a mighty force. This sight renewed the fighting spirit of the human soldiers, and they pushed back with even greater determination. The clash on the ground was not only a test of physical strength, but of the human spirit. Every soldier, whether young or old, felt the weight of the moment. They knew that this fight was more than just a battle. It was the beginning of a new chapter for their land. With every swing of their weapons and every shout of defiance, they carved a path towards a future that they believed in. Throughout the day, the battle raged on with moments of high intensity and brief pauses where silence fell over the field, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing and the distant rumble of approaching reinforcements. In these quiet moments, the soldiers exchanged glances full of understanding. Each one knew that they fought for a shared dream. The simplicity of their purpose made even the most complicated maneuvers feel natural and true. As the conflict continued, the enemy began to falter under the relentless human assault. Their lines broke, and confusion spread among their ranks. The human warriors, fueled by the belief in their cause and the presence of their mighty warship, pressed on with a steady rhythm. With every small victory on the ground, the tide of the battle turned further in favor of the defenders of Eldoria. The clash on the ground was a mix of raw courage and the strength of unity. Each moment in the fight carried the weight of all the hopes and dreams of the human people. In this struggle, every soldier, whether known or unknown, became a hero in their own right, fighting for a future where humanity would rise above fear and darkness. In the heart of the battlefield, as the enemy began to retreat and the human lines held firm, the soldiers knew that they had taken a significant step towards shaping their destiny. The battle was not yet over, but the human resolve had proven strong and unwavering. The clash on the ground had shown that even in the midst of chaos, the light of hope could shine through, guiding the people towards a new dawn, aftermath, and new beginnings. As the sun set on the battlefield, a calm fell over Eldoria. The fighting had slowed, and the noise of clashing weapons was replaced by soft whispers of wind and the gentle rustling of leaves. The human forces stood together, their armor stained and faces tired, but in their eyes shone a bright hope for a better future. In the heart of the battlefield, Captain Roland walked slowly among his men. He paused to help a wounded soldier and offered kind words to another who trembled from the shock of battle. Every small act of care became a symbol of unity. The soldiers, despite the scars of war, began to smile and share a quiet moment of relief. They understood that though the battle had been fierce, it was only the beginning of a new chapter for their land. All around, the sounds of the conflict slowly faded away. In villages nearby, people emerged from their homes, peeking out at the battlefield with cautious eyes. They listened to the soft murmurs of victory and began to believe that the dark days might be ending. The simple folk of Eldoria felt a deep sense of pride, knowing that their brave warriors had fought not just for survival, but for a future filled with hope and peace. In the royal palace, King Darian watched the aftermath with a thoughtful heart. The once quiet halls now echoed with a mix of sorrow and hope. He held a quiet meeting with his closest advisors and spoke softly about the need to rebuild and heal the land. The king's gentle words reminded everyone that even after the harshest storm, the dawn always brings a new chance for renewal. At the camp, the legendary human warship still loomed proudly in the distance, its lights dimming as it rested after the battle. Its presence was a powerful reminder that a strong force had come to aid the people in their time of need. The ship, like a guardian, promised that help and unity would remain long after the last sword was drawn. Its crew worked together to tend to the wounded and secure the area, ensuring that the battle's end would also mark the beginning of recovery. In a small clearing near the camp, Lion, the young warrior who had fought with quiet determination, sat by a gently flowing stream. He looked at his reflection in the clear water and saw not just a warrior, but a symbol of the hope that now spread across the land. In that moment of peace, Lion made a silent vow. He would protect this fragile new beginning and help his people rebuild what had been broken. The people of Eldoria soon began to see changes around them. The fields that once bore the marks of conflict were slowly mended by hard-working farmers. Simple songs of victory and resilience filled the air in village squares as neighbors gathered to share stories of bravery and unity. Even the children, who had watched the battle from a safe distance, started to imagine a future where they could grow up in peace, free from the fear of war. In the following days, the remnants of the enemy forces were driven away, and the land began its slow healing process. Captain Roland organized small teams to clear the debris and care for the injured. The community worked together to rebuild homes and restore the markets, where laughter and simple joy returned to replace the sorrow of loss. Every act of rebuilding, no matter how small, was celebrated as a victory of the human spirit over the darkness of war. As night fell on a clear, starlit evening, the people gathered around bonfires. They shared their dreams for the future, a future where unity and hope would guide them. The elders spoke of the legendary leader and the warship that had turned the tide, and children listened with wide eyes, knowing that these stories were the seeds of tomorrow's legends. In the quiet moments of the night, King Darian wrote a message of gratitude and hope. He promised that his people would rebuild their land with fairness and courage, and that the new era would be one where every citizen played a part in shaping a peaceful future. His words were simple and honest, echoing the belief that no matter how long the night, the morning would always come. The aftermath of the battle marked not an end, but a fresh beginning. The scars on the land and on the hearts of its people served as a reminder of the hard lessons learned. Yet, as the first light of a new day touched Eldoria, every soul felt a renewed sense of possibility. Together, they understood that the strength of humanity lay not only in the power of its warriors, but in the courage of every individual to dream, to rebuild, and to stand united in the face of all challenges. In that peaceful moment, as the embers of the night faded and the promise of a new day emerged, the people of Eldoria embraced their future with open hearts. The battle was over, but the story of their unity and resilience was just beginning.